Hello, everybody. You've caught me taking off my jacket. I've just been out for a walk. So listen, hello, good morning. Brilliant to see you. I hope you're well today. For those of you who are joining this on demand, watching the recording, nice to see you too. Today, we're going to have a look at the topic of education and schools. Now, I'm hoping I've sorted out the comment situation, but I would like to check with you all. Can you just say hello in the comments? And if nobody comments, I'm going to stop and try again. Ah, the comments work. Brilliant. Sharma, you're the first one in. Thank you very much for saying good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. It's great to see you here. Now, let me check if my comments work. The thing was, right, last week, it didn't work. The comments were not working, and it was a bit strange. I've also realized that the comments there's a big time lag. So I think I see your comments much later than you sending them. Emily, hi, good to see you again. And Olga and Ruth and Yana and Nadia are all here. Good morning, hello, and welcome to a beautiful Tuesday. I hope you're very well. Tanja, good morning. Great to see you here. It's an exciting day today. A, because it's sunny. B, because we've got an Ielts speaking class. How good is that? I'm really excited because we're going to be talking about education and schools. I'll talk a little bit about UK education because I think some people were interested in that last week. And I'll tell you a bit about some kind of topics and questions we can get in IELTS on this topic of education. Right, Feline is here. Hello, Irina. Hello. Great, Yana, it's a pleasure for you to join us, and thank you for joining us. That's brilliant. So I'm going to begin a little bit just talking about UK education. And what a good place to start. Maybe talk about my education, although this is going back in the day, going back quite a few years. So I went to a Catholic primary school, because you may have guessed from my name, O'Hare. I'm from an Irish family, and, well, in an Irish Catholic family. A large number of the families in Ireland are Catholic. My grandparents came over to the UK. In fact, my great-grandparents came to the UK. So my grandparents were born in the UK. I was born in the UK, but I went to a Catholic primary school, and then later changed in the middle of that school to a non-religious school, kind of a normal state education school, and then moved to a grammar school for secondary. So in England, we've got primary. In fact, before primary, you begin what we call reception, right? Which is strange, right? Because reception is like when you go into an office and the receptionist says, hello, good morning, can I help you? But we call the very first school you go to is reception. When you're 4 years old, you go to reception. And then at age 5, you start primary school. And you then have 4 years of primary school. So you'll have, well, actually, no, you have more than that. In my day, we had 4 years of primary school, but now it's different. Now we have 6 years of primary school. The first 3 years are called Key Stage 1, and then we have Key Stage 2. And then after primary school, you have secondary school. So from 11 up to 16 or 17, you'll have 6 years of secondary school. In England, we don't really have middle school or high school. We just call it secondary school. So I went to a Catholic primary school and then moved to a state school. And then in secondary, I went to a grammar school. Grammar schools are subsidized by the government. So they're half paid for, half kind of semi-private and half subsidized by the government. And that was a great opportunity for me that led me later to go to university. And I went to university in Sheffield, which is a nice, beautiful city in the north of England. So the system, we have what we call key stages. We have key stage 1 and 2 in primary school. Then you need to do national exams at the end of key stage 1. At the end of primary school, you do national exams. Then you go into secondary school and you have key stage 3, and then key stage 4, which takes you to the kind of age 16 or 17. At the age of 15, most people do O levels, and then they may go to a sixth form college to do A levels, and then you may go on to university. Nowadays, actually, universities, about 50% of the people, I think, go to university. Back in the day when I went to school, only about 5% went to university. Most people didn't go to university, but that has changed a lot now. The government is encouraging everybody to go to university, and you can study lots of different things there. And then you've got your universities, you've got your technical colleges, you've got in the UK, we spend about 3 years normally to do a degree, a bachelor's degree. 4 years if it's a sandwich program. Some people take a year to study abroad or to do practical training. And then if you're doing a postgraduate and a master's degree, in the UK, it's normally 2 years for most of them. You can do some in a year, some in 2. Of course, if you're going to be a professional in medicine or a doctor, I think or architecture, you need to study for about 5 or 6 years. Right. Come back to the comments. Let me say hello. Motaz is here. Hello, Lur. You're here. Great to see you. Still here. Kartazinia, good morning. Keisito. I'm sure I've pronounced that terrible. Good morning. Camel, great. Good day, mates. Dorothea, love it. Colleen, nursery school. Right. So nursery school. I'm going to show you this because I was looking this up before just to double check. Nursery is, if I remember correctly, is from 3 to 4. So at age 3, you'll have what we call the early years. You'll have nursery school. And then age 4, still part of the nursery school, but it's the reception. And that's your kind of second year in education. And then you move into key stage 1, primary school. Let me try and show you this. If I show you this, you get a view of my neighbors. So I'm going to do that and take out the thingamajig. See if this works. 3 to 4, early years. 4 to 5, reception. And then key S1 is key stage 1. And then year 2, key stage 1. Then you've got key stage 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 years. And then year 7 is when you move up into key stage 3, which is secondary school. So that's the kind of the system that we have. Right. Good morning, SWS. Great. Guys, I took my IELTS. Colleen, well done. How did it go, Colleen? Do you feel happy with your performance? Hi, Mohammed. Yeah, everyone wants to know what Colleen got in her, what topics did you get? Colleen's from the Cameroon. Ah, très bien, great. Topics. The UK system is the same as ours in Cameroon. Right, Colleen, right. It's, I think, similar in quite a lot of countries, except the United States. I think it's a little bit different there. Ahmed, very good morning from Budapest. Nastina, hello. In the Philippines, you've got nursery, kindergarten, and preparatory school, which is like our primary school, I think. Oh, no, that's going to primary school. Ah, okay, right. Ahmed is going to take his IELTS in 1 month. And you're nervous already? Ahmed, are you mad? You've got a whole month. If you're going to be nervous for a month, you're going to end up sick, my friend. You're only allowed to be nervous 2 days before the test. Seriously, disconnect. Focus on your studies. Forget about the test. Just focus on practice and study. No nerves allowed. Enjoy yourself for a few weeks. Hi, Jerry. Nice to see you here. And Rizwana, brilliant, from the UAE. Excellent. Fola is in May. Egypt is totally different from the UK. Right. Fatma, yes. I think it's the many different systems. And also in the UK, if you remember a chap is a man, by the way. There was a chap, there was a man, there was a, I'll write this down for you. There was a chap called David Cameron. He was our prime minister a while back. When David Cameron, in about 2015, when he was in power, he totally turned around the education system. He changed it radically because he had this idea of a free society, the big society, he called it. And he wanted, a bit like Kennedy in the States, he was like, don't ask what we can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And he encouraged parents, churches, charities to open schools. And he called them free schools, not because they're free, but because they were open. And the idea of free schools was that anybody could open a school. You had to go through certain regulation and certain controls, but it encouraged parents to open schools, maybe faith groups to open schools, or local communities. And they would have businesses who would sponsor the school. So the free schools were essentially kind of private, but they were funded by the government, but they didn't have to follow the national curriculum. So you had all the national schools, or the state schools, the majority, and then you had this branch of other schools, mainly free schools, that anybody could open. So anybody could take the initiative and say, I want a different kind of school for my daughter or my son. Get together with your friends and open a school. And there are hundreds of free schools now. We've got actually free schools, academies is a similar thing, faith schools, because of the huge influx of different nationalities into the UK. We have, in many parts of the country, large numbers of, well, not by religion, but by maybe nationality, Indians, Bangladesh, Pakistan, from various Arab countries. There are, I think, also Buddhist communities. So we have a large number of faith communities, be it Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, and all of the different branches, and lots of schools that are faith schools that bring together people of that faith. And so we've got a whole variety of schools, and also basic private schools or independent schools, which are fully privately funded, and again, don't have to follow the national curriculum. And that's a growing sector. I think in many countries, there are more and more private schools. We have this expression in England called people are voting with their feet, right? People vote with their feet. And that means when you don't like something, you get up and you walk out. So if you don't like the state school system, you get up and you walk out and you make your own school. So people were voting with their feet. But the government, quite cleverly, instead of people walking away, they said, listen, let's create a system so you can all set up your own schools. And they created this great system, the academy system or free school system. It's quite a complex system, and I won't talk much about it here, but it's very interesting, the idea. And I've noticed in my travels around the world, the growth of the private schools in many countries is just booming. It's getting bigger and bigger. And I wonder if in many countries, as in England, some parents are voting with their feet. Say, we want a different kind of education. We're going to talk about the problems and challenges of education around the world in our IELTS questions. But more importantly, Raj is going to book his test on the 21st of March, which is very soon, Raj. So I'm delighted you're here. I hope we can give you some help and support. You're still getting just band 7. in speaking. That, Raj, is very good. Band 7 is good. Many people would be very happy with that, but you're right. It depends what your requirement is and what you're going to do. Right, Irina, hi, nice to see you. Irina's taking the exam in Ielts. I'm so nervous. I know you're going to do very, very well. Relax, breathe, enjoy the exam, enjoy your preparation. There's a lot of people here doing the test soon. Mary says, the educational system in the UK is one of the best. It was my dream to achieve a university degree and back into my birth country. Now I'm a student in the UK. Hooray, Mary, fantastic. Very proud of yourself, as you should be. That's very nice. Talent and individuals encourage people to take part. Well, yes, it will be interesting to talk a bit about the learning style in the UK, because I know it can be quite different from other countries. And here's an anecdote, right? A short story from me. Anecdote, you should know that word. If you don't, please make a note. Anecdote just means a short story, a short personal story, right? Anecdote. Here's an anecdote from me. I went to a good school, right? It was a grammar school, and I went to university. In universities in the UK, and this was many years ago, you're left to your own devices. Do you know that expression? You're left to your own devices, which means you are given autonomy. That's a bit more complicated, but you're given more freedom, right? You just let people do what they need to do. You give people the freedom, the autonomy to do what they need to do. You're left to your own devices. Sometimes when I put my daughter in the kitchen to cook dinner, I just leave her to her own devices. Let her get on, say, you need to cook dinner, and she makes it up. I don't micromanage. Micromanage is a nice expression, to micromanage. Micromanage is when you say to your daughter, use this flour, 2 tablespoons full, use that spoon, not this spoon. Why are you doing that? Do this, pick it up, don't do that. And you're telling them every single step, and they never learn. Well, they learn to follow instructions, but that's the point, right? So in UK universities, they don't micromanage. You arrive and they say, right, you've got your exams in 6 months' time. Here's the curriculum. Here are your lessons, and go for it. When I went to university, my first 2 months, I thought, this is brilliant. There's no homework. There's no teacher chasing you. And I was playing football. I was down the games room. I joined the climbing club. I went to the bar having coffees. And after 2 months, my French teacher, I studied French at university, French and business. My French professor said, bon alors Keith, comment ça va? Tu fais des progrès? And how are you? Are you making progress? And I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, have you done this task? Have you done this? Have you made a study plan? How often are you studying? And how often are you going to come and see me? And I was like, I've no idea. And she screamed at me. She flew off the handle and she said, what do you think you're playing at? She did it in a very nice way, but she said, listen, if you don't change today, you're going to drop out of university. And she said, you need to get a grip and organize your study time and the way that you're progressing and studying. And I hadn't realized, I thought this freedom was great, but it's very deceptive. And it just means you've got to be disciplined. And so she gave me a real telling off. She gave me a telling off, right? She, what's the word? She scolded me, but in a very nice way. And it was brilliant because then I changed immediately and I knuckled down. But a lot of students don't realize the different style in UK universities, that nobody's chasing you. So with autonomy comes great responsibility, right? So with that also comes some interesting expressions. She gave me a telling off. Now, you probably know all those words, but it's a strange expression. She gave me a telling off, means that she told me off. She scolded me, or she shouted at me. Oh, scolded me. And what else? Oh, I knuckled down. Knuckled down. UCKLED, knuckled down. So knuckle is this part of the bone, is this part of the hand, the knuckles. When you knuckle down is when you start working or start studying. To start working hard, right? That's to knuckle down. Okay, very colloquial. Anyway, that's my anecdote. Universities, different working style. Right, Motaz says home education could be useful today. Oh, now that is a really, really good point. Home education, online learning, blended learning. Absolutely. We're going to talk about that in a moment. All these people doing the IELTS very soon. Quesito, Nastina. Right, Raj wants to go to New Zealand for residency. Yeah, so the higher the better, right? 7.5 or 8, even better. Okay. Khalid, good morning. I'm delighted you're here, Khalid, as well. Yeah, brilliant. With your lesson, we know taking IELTS will be much easier. Thank you, Mona. I certainly hope so. Certainly more fun and learn lots of things. Fatma, I like that. At your own pace. So study at your own pace. That's absolutely true. Hey, Sana, nice to see you here. Colleen, part 2 of speaking. Colleen's update. Update on Colleen's exam. Part 2 of speaking. I was asked to narrate my first time of meeting someone for the first time in my life. First time of meeting someone. Who was it? When was it? And what did I learn? Yep, that's it. That's one of those questions. Good. Good morning, Zainab. Oh, Khalid, that is so unfortunate. You see, you were sick because you were nervous for a month before. So there's the lesson, Raj, and everybody else. Don't be nervous. Relax for the month before. You can only be nervous 1 or 2 days before the test. Good luck, Kamal. I hope you get a good score there. Right. Uma, nice to see you. And Ruth, Saturday test. Brilliant. You're so lucky. So now I'm going to move on. We'll talk more about UK education and stuff, but let's look at some kind of questions to frame our discussion. Okay, so these are, I mean, these are not questions at the moment, but on the topic of education, you will get education because part 2 at the moment, we've got to describe a uniform, either work or school, and describe a school from your childhood, right? So those are part 2 questions. Education's going to come up in part 3. So let's try and talk about. That's nice, that, isn't it? Touch on, like you're just touching. Let's touch on or talk about some of these topics. You can say that in your test, right? I want to touch on the education system in my country. The examiner will be like, whoa, who taught you that? I want to touch on, brilliant. I want to touch on the education system in my country. Doesn't get any better. English expressions. Uma needs a speaking partner. Beep, beep. Anybody answer Uma now? Get in touch, get speaking. The secret to your success, apart from coming to these classes, is practice. And if you get a speaking partner, practice. Some people are a bit worried about speaking partners because they say, well, if I practice with a non-native, I'm going to pick up their mistakes. No, there has been a lot of research on this. I was going to say scientific, it's social sciences research. The impact of mistakes from a non-native speaker on another learner is minimal, doesn't exist. There is no significant impact. You don't start repeating their mistakes. And if you're not sure about that, I will tell you from experience as a teacher, very often as a teacher, we correct students, right? And we actually correct them in many different ways. We say, no, it's like this. Or we say, should it be like this or like this? Or we just say the correct version, right? And how many times do students carry on making the mistakes, right? Oh, yes, I know, but oh, sorry, I forgot, right? So if the native speaker teacher is correcting you and people still make mistakes, what do you think about listening to a non-native speaker? Are you suddenly magically going to start making their mistakes and copying their language? No, that's not how it works. So have no worries about working with a speaking partner who is not a native speaker. The most important thing really is that they're a similar level to you, and that you respect each other. Respect each other's time and learning, and motivate each other. So go for it. Speaking partners. Oh, update, Colleen. It's like news flash all the way through. Colleen from the Cameroon will tell us, I was asked a series of questions. Are you a patient person? You are, Colleen, obviously. What instances makes you lose patience? Where do you live for the next 10 years? Have you ever been to the village? Oh, what's that got to do with patience? Those are interesting questions, Khalid. I'm not sure what the topic is there, or are those maybe different topics? Right. Right. Good. The thing I spy is how unhurried and quiet you are. Oh, Mac, that's take 30 seconds to give me pieces of advice regarding that. Right. Oh, okay. 30 seconds. You're hurrying me. First of all, it's my personality. I'm a very quiet. I'm not introverted. I am a little bit at times, but it depends on the situation. But I can be quite extroverted. How do I explain this to you? I spent a long time in the world of meditation and the now. And there's a great book. I'll just recommend this book to you. And if you read it, this will sort you out. It's called The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. And it's all about understanding things happen now in this moment. And when you focus on this moment, you slow down. It's almost like time slows down. Everything slows down because you are just focused in the flow or in the present moment. And that's where I get my unhurried approach from. That's it. Right. Let's move on. Brilliant, Quesito. Keep watching. Thank you very, very much. Great. Right. I'd like to get some classes. When can I start? Wow. Raj, for classes, well, apart from these classes, there are one-to-one classes on italki. But my schedule is fully booked for the next 6 weeks. But after 6 weeks, come and join me. Just check me out on italki.com. That's the place. Sorry, I don't want to be doing adverts. It's just in answer to your question. Right, where are we? Let me come straight back. I want to carry straight on. You're welcome, sir. Now, do you think school education prepares students well for future life? Okay, here's the question. Do you think school education prepares students well for future life? Okay, so think about future life. You're thinking about work, family, things that happen in your future life, right? What skills do you need for that? That's your first question. So to get a job, to be effective in the future, maybe to make money, to support your family, to build relationships and build a family. What skills do you need and what qualification? So not only qualification, skills and knowledge. And does school give you that? What do you think? I've got my own opinions, my very strong opinions, but what do you think? Oh, Mona, I like that comment. Thank you very much. That's funny. Great. Raj, I'll see what I do. I'll see what I can do. No promises, but I will see. So the question, do you think school education prepares students well? Okay. The future is uncertain. I sound like I'm talking about the coronavirus, don't I? I mean, that's kind of there. But apart from that, the future is uncertain. We don't actually know what kind of jobs our children will be doing in 10 or 20 years' time. Those jobs haven't even been invented yet. What we do know is that there are certain jobs that will always be there. And there are other jobs, especially around technology, that are being developed, and there's a bigger demand for those kind of jobs. So it seems to me that in the information age, there's going to be a big demand for coding skills, web design, online teaching and training and learning, especially with the coronavirus. There's going to be a need for technological development with the Internet of Things and all of that, and the implications for our future life. So there's a whole bunch of jobs there. The information age means that now the traditional learning of rote learning, learning facts and dates and information, is a waste of time. What is the point of learning when King Louis XV died? What's the point? Use Google. Just look it up on Google. So there's no need to learn information. What's needed is the skill of finding information and evaluating if it's accurate information. So a whole different skill set, and the skill of communicating that information. So I think the whole, what we call 21st century skills, right? 21st century skills, things like communication, problem solving, interpersonal skills, teamwork, all of these are the skills that young people will need in the future. And there's a big question mark, are schools giving them those skills? Some schools are, some schools are not. Schools that take the traditional rote learning approach to memorizing facts and figures are not really preparing kids for the future. Schools that are getting kids to engage, work in teams, be creative, think outside the box, probably they're more likely to be preparing students for the future. There you go. I talk about 21st century skills because in my travels around the world, I've done education project management in different countries. The big thing that governments in China, Taiwan, Malaysia, Vietnam, lots of countries is 21st century skills. They want their national curriculums and assessment systems to give kids 21st century skills, which are, as I said, team building, problem solving, creativity, slightly different kind of skill set. So let me write that down. 21st century skills. And I think it's absolutely right. I think these are the skills that people need. Okay. Right, Mona, you're right. I guess getting an education, that's a nice collocation. Getting an education, that's really nice. Will be an advantage to get better, a much more paying job, a much higher paying job in the future. Absolutely. You learn how to be responsible, Ruth. Well, that's absolutely true. You learn responsibility. You do. Responsibility for yourself and for others. What else have we got? Education will prepare us of what is to come in the future, will prepare us for what is to come in the future, Mona. Yes. Dorothea says, in my opinion, school system shows big differences between countries. In my country, the system is completely different from English-style schools. The education is mainly based on lexical knowledge. Right. Interesting, Dorothea. Lexical knowledge. And especially when it comes to language learning, right? When I was at school, the way we learnt languages, a lot of it didn't work, some of it did, but it was just learning long lists of words and the translation. We didn't do much speaking practice. And so after when I was 16 years old, after how many years of French? After what, 10 years of French, went on holiday to France with my family. My dad said, go into the bread shop, leaving me to my own devices. He said, go into the bread shop and get some bread. And I said, can you come with me? He said, no, just go and get some bread. So I remembered my schoolboy French, walked into the shop and said, Dirks de pen. Dirks de pen. And the guy looked at me and said, I still remember his face. Mais qu'est-ce qu'il y a, mon enfant? Qu'est-ce que tu as? Dirks de pen. And I was trying to say de pain, which is 2 of bread or 2 loaves of bread, but I didn't know how to say it. And then and he was speaking to me, and all I heard was couldn't understand a word. He couldn't understand me. After 10 years of French in school, it was comical. And that's when I realized that I hadn't been able to learn French. And it was a shame because I loved French. And eventually I got a C. I got a really low score in French, but I insisted I wanted to go to university and study French. I think that event had motivated me to say, listen, I'm going to come back to this shop and I'm going to speak good French. And that motivated me to learn better French. But what's the point? The point was, yes, I wasn't prepared. Learning languages traditionally didn't really help me. It was the lexical knowledge-based approach. Rote learning. There's the other word. It's a very good one. If you can talk about rote learning. Rote learning is basically memorizing facts, which, it's like maths, learning the times tables. There's a lot of controversy, 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 2 is 6, 4 times 2 is 8. And we get children to repeat that. Is it really useful when you've got this, right? Is it really useful? Some people say it gives you mental flexibility and it's good training. But in this information age, I wonder, really, should we be teaching maybe a different kind of skill? Maybe. Right. Mary, school education prepares you to have theoretical knowledge, but not really practical one. That's very good. The difference between theory and practice. At university, we're implementing programs to apply theory in real life. Yeah, university, what I realized at university is one part of it is the knowledge that you learn, but the other part of learning is your interaction with other people, your interaction with students, your socializing, making connections for your future life, learning how to be and work with people and share the information that you're learning. And a lot of the information is not from the book. It's what you discover and the connections you make, right? Learning is all about joining the points. It's not about learning where the points are. It's learning how to connect the points and make sense of our world. The big revelation for me at university was when one of the teachers said, there is no right answer. And I was like, well, hang on, there must be a right answer. I mean, I've had 12 years of education, right? There's always a right answer and a wrong answer. And this university teacher said, there's no right answer. We don't know. And it's not about right or wrong. It's about making sense of things. Brilliant, right? Really, really interesting. Here we go. People are getting together for speaking partners. Brilliant. It's like being at a party where we're having a conversation about education. Some people are exchanging phone numbers. Some people are sitting on the sofa. I bet some of you are having a coffee on the sofa, aren't you? I bet. Great. Khalid says, good education definitely will lead to prosperous and promising future. I like that, Khalid, because that's a binomial. And I bet you didn't know that, did you? It's a binomial, prosperous and promising future. That kind of structure with adjective and adjective to describe something is really nice English. It's really good. Prosperous and promising future. Everybody make a note. That's really nice. At least this is the case in my hometown, in Sudan. Great. Where the government schools are suffering from scarcity of qualified teachers and low funding. Scarcity of qualified teachers, Khalid, is all over the world. It is so true. In the UK, we have that problem. In China, they have that problem. In Malaysia, they have that problem. I think in so many countries. Very, very true. Motaz says, yes, because at diversity schools, pupils have a chance to listen and learn from different classmates, opinions and skills, which I feel as a cornerstone of their children's future. A cornerstone of your future. Very nice, Motaz. A cornerstone of your future. The cornerstone, of course, is the most important part. Good. Great. I'm getting behind on all your comments. Oh my God, there are 24 comments to go. Maybe I should move on to the next question. All of these are great. I'm sure you're all reading each other's. It's like being at the party. When you host a party, you don't go around and be a part of every conversation, right? You just let people talk to each other. And I go and speak to a few people. Keith's IELTS party. Should I call it that instead of a lesson? I don't know. Right. Oh, Zainab is interesting, talking about parents' responsibility. The role of parents as well. Really good. Now, Tao Hyung, if that's the right pronunciation, I've been reading about active learning and teaching method. Have you heard about it? Absolutely. Active learning. Yes. And listen, if there's any educators or teachers here, you really should read visible learning. So there's active learning and there's something called visible learning. There is a researcher called John Hattie, and his research is actually influencing education systems all over the world. I can't remember if he's Australian or from New Zealand. I'm really sorry, but I always get them mixed up. I kind of think they're the same. Of course, they're not the same. I know they're not the same. I mean, I've been there. But it's like people saying England and Scotland, right? It's all the same. Yes. So anyway, John Hattie, he's from maybe Australia or New Zealand. And visible learning, and it will blow your mind. As a teacher or as a parent, it's not too academic reading. There are 2 or 3 different books. But it's about visible learning. So it's not, how shall I explain this? It's not, so how do you make learning visible? How do you see learning, right? How do you know that after this class, you've learned something? Now you could say, well, because I've got all these new phrases and I've written them down, right? But the phrases are on the paper. How do we know that you're able to get them in your head and you're able to speak them? And you could say, well, if I'm using them in conversation, then I know, and that's right. And that would be one aspect of visible learning, is that when you speak out these words in a conversation, we can go, you've learned it. That has big implications for evaluation and assessment. I'm not going to go there. It's a big topic. I will get distracted and it probably won't help you. We could do that for maybe do a teacher's session and talk about that. But if you get a chance, if you're interested, John Hattie, Visible Learning is fantastic. And it's related to the active learning. I think active learning is very much about you taking responsibility for your own learning. Is rather than the teacher telling people, people learn. The focus is on the learning, not on the teaching. Right. In the age of AI, we should teach young people skills. Yes. Problem-solving skills, communication skills, 21st century skills. Typically French. Yeah, I know. Sorry, that's way much later. Right. Let me move on. Raj, seriously? Are you asking that question? How many idioms can I use in my speaking exam? It's not a mathematical thing, really. It's not. If you want the short answer, 2 to 3. That's the short answer. The long answer is no, I won't give you the long answer. Idioms are important, right? And they're useful. And for a band 7, you have to show knowledge, use of less common and idiomatic language. So idiomatic language, yes, it's important. You need to be able to use it. But it's really hard to be thinking, how many should I use? You just have to wait for the occasion to come. And when it feels appropriate, you use them. Yeah. Right. What was I going on? 21st century skills. Soft skills was the other name. So soft skills like communication, problem solving, those are all soft skills. Okay. I have lingered on that question a long time. To linger is kind of to wait and spend a long time on something. Next question. How do you think education in your country will change in the future? Okay. There are lots of things you can talk about. This is a typical part 3 question, right? How do you think blah, blah, blah will change in the future? I would always think about, well, what is the blah, blah, blah? Can you break it down, right? How do you think education will change? Well, education. So a great way is to start with this saying, well, if you're talking about teachers, da, 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 da. If you're talking about schools, da, 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 da. If you're talking about learning, then da, 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 right? Because there's so many things you could talk about. So you want to choose one or two and then go into detail about them. So you could start with, if you are talking about teachers, then I think, right? If you're talking about teachers, I think in the future, the government will increase the salaries of teachers and improve the training systems in order to motivate and incentivize more teachers to join the profession. That's nice, isn't it? Incentivize more teachers to join the profession. Because, remember, part 3, right? So opinion, why, example. So if you're talking about teachers, I think the government will increase salaries and what else did I say? Will increase salaries and improve training systems to motivate and incentivize more teachers to join the profession, because at the moment there are not enough qualified and certified teachers in our school systems. For example, London alone, there is a shortage of about 300 teachers. I was reading in the Guardian newspaper last week. I wasn't, but that's okay. Of course I wasn't reading the Guardian newspaper last week, but hey, it's a nice example. So if you're talking about that, if you're talking about, I don't know, what else? Well, schools. If you're talking about schools, then I reckon, right? Instead of I think every time, change. I reckon, I suspect, or I guess, that the government is going to build more schools because we've got changing demographics. We've got more and more young people entering the education system, and we don't have enough schools. And that's the reason we're going to need more. For example, Boris Johnson recently announced they were going to construct 1,000 new schools across the country. I don't know if that's true, but the examiner's not going to check the news, is he or she? And if she does check the news, it'll be after she's given me the score, so it doesn't matter. So if you're talking about, and what can you talk about with this question? I'm just going to look at this, a list of things that come to my mind that I wrote down earlier. Teachers, equipment, if you're talking about research on effective learning, and then you can talk about John Hattie. Assessment, if you're talking about assessment, I think we're going to have fewer assessment, fewer fewer assessment milestones, and more course evaluation rather than exams. right? Assessment milestones. Did I say that? Assessment milestones. Fewer assessment milestones. Do you know, earlier I was talking about the key stage 1, key stage 2, then we have an assessment. Then to get into primary, into secondary school, you have an assessment. These are milestones, assessment milestones. You can talk about quality control. In England, we have an organization called Ofsted. And Ofsted goes to every single school, including your academies, your free schools, your independent schools, your grammar schools, all the state schools. And they evaluate everything. They evaluate the teaching quality, the culture, the learning, the students, the number, the equipment, and you get a score. And these scores are made public so that parents can see whether their school is kind of outstanding, good, or needs improvement. And, that can motivate teachers to vote with their feet, right? To leave a school and go to another school. The problem in England, of course, as in many countries, is you have to go to a school. If you go to a state school in your neighborhood, you can't just choose to go to other schools. So it's not a simple choice of going to different schools. But you can talk about quality control. Ofsted is the fantastic organization in the UK. Seriously, I've watched them work, and it's amazing the skill and how they do that. And maybe that's why we have, in some ways, very, very good education in the UK, because of that quality control. You could talk about growth of private education. We touched on private education. We touched on private education earlier, right? Mobility is social mobility, whether poorer working class children have the same opportunity to go to university or not. For example, there was a report recently criticizing Oxford and Cambridge because still 80% of their graduates come from private schools. And the government said, listen, guys, we have a diverse society. We're promoting social mobility, equal opportunity. How can we do that when Oxford and Cambridge, 80% of your students coming from the private education sector? That's not social mobility. So they were criticized, and they defended themselves, whether you agree or not. But they had an argument to say, there's a reason we are the best in the world, and so they have less social mobility. You could talk about online learning, the world of MOOCs, MOOCs. I did know that. Open online courses, multiple open online courses. So online courses offered by universities across the world. So you can get a free education. You can get trained by some of the best professors in the world on the MOOCs. And if you've not checked out MOOCs, go and check them out. There are some great English learning MOOCs. There is a brilliant Ielts Mooc. Let me share the thing with you, because if you've not done the Ielts Mooc, then you should, because A, it's free. B, it's run by our friends at the British Council, and it's a really good course, and I think you can learn a lot. Has anybody done the Ielts Mooc? Anybody done the Ielts Mooc? Let me get you the link. Is this the one? Understanding Ielts. I think that's the one. I'll give you the link, and you guys can go and check it out. It's well worth the links, because it's okay. The link's a promotional link. Anyway, you can check it out. It's on FutureLearn. Right. Sorry, I'm way behind on your comments. Right. The onus is on the teachers' shoulders to varnish the skills and the gifts of their students. Yes, that's an interesting word, varnish, Khalid. Varnish the skills. I've never heard. That's a bit strange, because varnish is to polish, right? To polish the skills. I would say yes to polish the skills. To varnish is a bit strange, a bit poetic. To polish the skills and the gifts of their students, but I agree with the thing. Right, Camel, well done. 4 expressions, good. Cutting edge era demands developing new professionals and skills. Nastina, brilliant. Totally agree. That's it. By imitating developed countries in their educational system. Well, yes, Fatma, yes. Imitating and adapting, because obviously what works in one country will not work exactly the same because of different cultures and systems, but imitating and maybe adapting, totally agree. Yes. Khalid says the government should subsidize the educational system as a whole. Absolutely. Well, they should pay for it. They should pay for everything except the private education. But they should subsidize education system. That's really good. Subsidize the education system. Nice. Very good. Emily thinks the future education will focus on computer skills because technology becomes widely available. Brilliant and very, very true. Motaz says, in the future, we will see more homeschooling rather than traditional schooling, because the government day by day is leaving its role in allocating more funds for education system, and the approach may lead to jeopardize the education system. That's a really good point and a great discussion. And it raises the question, this is for another day, but how do you control the quality of homeschooling? And how do you provide equal opportunity so everybody can have homeschooling? Because at the moment, you need to be a pretty well-educated parent to homeschool your children. Although there are systems and ways and curriculums you can follow, early years, you still need to guide your children and have time to do it. But I think that's a fascinating topic and a really good one to talk about. And Motaz has given us some nice language there. Good. Open new schools according to the need of job markets. Right. Very good, Fatma. And that has happened in the UK. They have opened what we call further education schools, vocational schools, to give children the skills that they need. Because if everybody studies French at university or at school, who's going to do the computing? It doesn't work, right? So the job market's demanding more IT skills, AI skills. We need special schools to train people for that. And in England, those are called vocational. Well, it's called further education. Let me just write it down. Thank you, Fatima. That's really good. Further education and vocational schools and vocational colleges. And I think many countries have this as well, all right? Emulating the success. Great. Mary says, educational system in my country, I think, will not improve soon because the Romanian government changes every year the learning methods. And that's not good, is it? It's not good for the teachers because they have to retrain and it confuses everybody. It makes children very confused. And what they learn in a year cannot be applied in exams the next year. So true. Yeah. And no political and economic stability. And this impacts on education. Do you know what we call that, Mary? We call that a political football, right? Education is a political football. And I'll write that down for you, because that will blow your examiner away if you can say education is a political football. What I mean is it's used by politicians to win votes. So politicians say, let's change the education system. Let's make it better. Of course, the parents think, great, good, we'll vote for you. And then the next government comes in 3 years later, says, let's change education. And it's a nightmare, and it just destroys the whole system. God damn politicians. Oh, dear. I know, but we need them, don't we? We do. Very good point. Irina thinks the education system in her country won't significantly change anytime soon, as there is no consensus on the matter. That's lovely, Irina. No consensus on the matter, so nobody agrees. To me, however, this approach seems rather irresponsible. Yes, that's politicians for you, Irina. As we, as we really need a systematic change to our schools so that young people would have a necessary set of skills to tackle global threats like climate change and inequality. Wow, that is beautiful, Irina. Nice language and really good points to bring up, right? So talking about the skills in the future, the skills to tackle global threats like climate change and inequality. Wow, brilliant. Niromilakshi says, if you're talking about resources, oh, you're a good student. Nice. If you're talking about resources, I think we're going to have digitalized classrooms. Let me just write that down for you. Digitalized classrooms. Brilliant. That's a good point we've not touched on yet. Digitalized classrooms. Because currently we can see that many schools use laptops in classrooms. Yes, brilliant. We're getting rid of books. So many schools are digitalizing their books and their curriculum, digitalizing the curriculum. Wow. That's brilliant. Go into your test and write. So I think education is a political football, and it's really annoying what politicians are doing. What we need is to digitalize the national curriculum in order to tackle global threats like climate change and inequality. Best answer in the world, kind of. Great language. But anyway, my point is, make a note of these collocations and these phrases. It's brilliant. Excellent. Thank you, Niromilakshi. Brilliant. MOOCs such as Coursera and Udemy. Yes, Coursera, Udemy, there's another one, edX, I think it is another one. Social mobility. It seems to have another meaning other than that I have in mind. Social mobility is basically, Mac, is the movement of people through the social structure. So the movement of people from working class to middle class, or the movement of people from middle class to the upper class. It's often talked about in the context of equality of opportunity. So allowing social mobility, allowing poor people to access high quality education. And therefore, they can get a better job and therefore move up the social ladder from being poor to being maybe middle class, for example. That's the idea of social mobility, as I understand it. Right. Oh, Dorothea is doing Rote to Ielts, which is another British Council thing. It's free, and I think it's quite good, Dorothea, but maybe you could make a comment about it. Hey, Amani's here. Great. Amani reckons that online learning and online assessment will be more popular and prevalent. Great. Binomial. Popular and prevalent. Online assessment will be popular and prevalent. Brilliant binomial. Like it. In order to overcome the problems of overcrowding in the classrooms. Classrooms are very, overpopulated, right? Overcrowded. I guess that homeschooling may be trendy, especially after the presence of certain problems in the world like wars, violence, and corona. So, yeah, homeschooling and online learning, online assessment. Yes, very, very good. Raises lots of questions about quality, about security, all sorts of stuff, but really great points. Love it. Very, very nice. Prakash, I'm fantastic. Thank you very much. Really good. Even happier that you're here to join us. Amani continues. I think the Ministry of Education is planning to focus on it and PE classes to correct certain, and PE classes, physical education, right? PE classes to correct certain healthy problems between students like obesity. Yes, well, if you're talking about health and education, in order to tackle problems like obesity, yes, we need better and more effective PE classes that engage and engage our students. I think it's all about a love of learning, right? I think with schools, we get obsessed with learning rather than the love of learning. Because once you get kids to love learning, job done. They're going to learn on their own. If they love PE and getting fit and healthy, they've got that for the rest of their lives. It's the love of learning. That's the secret. Right. Propaganda. Censor the classrooms. Khalid, what are you talking about? Censor the classrooms. I had an interesting anecdote. Oh, I'm going to get distracted again. I won't tell you that anecdote. What is meant by a political football? A political football, Amani, is when the politicians use an issue in order to get votes. So they will take any issue, maybe it's global warming or education or anything at all, right? Immigration, maybe, and they use that or they change it to get votes for themselves. Right. Brilliant. What else was I going to talk about? I was going to mention a little bit just to finish up on the idea of blended learning, because somebody mentioned blended learning. Blended learning is where you combine online and face-to-face learning together. And I was going to mention big data because the role of big data in our world is really important. But if more and more people are learning online, then those data points we can also use to help improve learning. So the study of big data is really important. So the kind of thing Facebook does, right? Facebook knows this will freak you out. This might scare you, but Facebook is collecting every comment, every like, every thing that you've said and done here today and in your whole life, and they have it in this big database. Then they make a profile of you so that in order for them to, for example, send you an advertisement based on every single click and word you've written. Talk about Big Brother, but the power of the big data in order for Facebook market you things. But for education, the power of this, if I've seen you write down things like digitalized classrooms, then I can then give you learning materials to help you work on that focus in that area. So the power of big data to improve learning is really, really interesting. Anyway, that's what my master's degree was all about. That's why I'm very passionate about it, online learning. I was going to mention digital natives is a nice little phrase. People talk about digital natives. So the young people today who were born in a world of computers, internet, tablets, they are digital natives. That's their landscape, right? That's their world. So sometimes we talk about young people as their digital natives. They feel at home with all of this technology. Whereas people like me, I'm a digital immigrant, right? I have come into this digital world from another world. So I'm a digital immigrant, which is quite an interesting idea. Great. And I've just seen what time it is. I was meant to finish 40 minutes ago. This half-hour class has gone on an hour and 10 minutes, but it's a brilliant topic. And I think very useful, right, for IELTS. I think in IELTS speaking, education comes up quite a lot. To be able to pick up some nice phrases here and a few ideas is really good. To let you know, Dorothea says, I strongly recommend the online course. Many tests and practice possibilities. That's great. You need lots and lots of practice. So go and check out the course. It's not free, but doesn't cost much. Oh, I thought it was free. Oh, right. So they charge a little bit. Okay. Although your class is the best. Dorothea, thank you very much. How cool is that? Right. Extracurricular activities. Nice. Very nice expression. Really good. I love English. I love English. I love languages. I love even languages I don't speak, right? I was in Vietnam. I was at a conference. It was an assessment conference talking about education in Hanoi. And I was listening to the Vietnamese language and I just thought it was beautiful. It was just amazing. And I didn't understand anything. So I think it's like music. as if you, yes, I think language is a kind of music. And I love French and Chinese, obviously, and Spanish. But any languages, love, it's all about love. Wasn't that the Beatles? Love, love, da, 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 da. All you need is love. That's the one. Right. I do, yes. Data. You're right, Fatma, in a very strange way. It's called a Northern England way. Some people say data, some people say data. Yes, there's different ways. Generation Z are digital natives. Yes, they are indeed. Many of the millennials, digital natives. Generation Z tend to learn with technology. We talked about generations, didn't we? Put it all together. Brilliant. Listen, thank you very much, everybody. I am wrapping up for today. Amani's asking for tips for pronunciation. Amani, next time, right? Let's have a look at pronunciation. I'll try and do a little bit about pronunciation. I am planning some videos on pronunciation soon, so that might help as well. Niromilakshi. It's such a long name. That's why I have to say it so slowly. Niromilakshi, the next class, well, it's Thursday. So it's every Tuesday, every Thursday, 10 o'clock Spain time. Normally it's only half an hour because I think the ability to learn and focus goes down after half an hour. But obviously, you know, we've been here for an hour and 15 minutes. Everybody seems well awake and lively. Great. Thank you very much. That's it. We love you. I love you too. Thank you very much, everyone. I'll see you Thursday. Also, before we go, do just type in any comments, any other subjects you would like in the future. I have quite a few already, but any more ideas, pronunciation or topics or anything, write it in the box. And that's it. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.